Welcome everyone. I'm Dr. Nilima Singh and I'm delighted to be facilitating today's workshop on birth plan basics from labor pains to hospital baths. So that clearly explains that we are going to cover the most important journey today. So this is a welcome to the mothers and the expectant and mothers to be, that this part of the journey let us live together so that we can think together, and whatever doubts you get at the time of your return to work journey and regarding your hospital bags, how to go about, all this will be cleared crystal clear in this workshop. The postpartum period pregnancy journey program represents a significant transition, often receives less attention, saying that, Are chalo, now the pregnancy is done, the baby is born, everything is out, chalo, nothing. It has been accomplished and nothing is there to achieve now and nothing is to be done. No. The main journey begins now. So preparing for that journey is also very important, which we'll be doing it together by talking, by explaining, and you can ask the doubts back and which will be answered immediately. Now, what we'll cover today or what is the goal? So, delivery options is the first thing, because how to go to the hospital and what is the birth plan, what are the delivery options, hospital protocols, then various things that will happen during labor, especially talking about the exercise during labor, which is unheard of. So, breathing techniques, pain relief, like should you take an epidural or not, what to pack in the bag. Now, the baby has arrived, your bag is empty, and you are in a utter confusion. So, let us prepare for that. Then, your husband is not there when I announce the birth. So, the role of the male partner, when all they should be there with you, when all he should be there, and how he is going to support. Most of the times we are saying that we'll involve you, we want to involve you, but then in what way, how, where, and what to do is never told. So let us talk today clearly about what is the role of the male partner. And then the journey to be spoken of again, so that we re-revise our steps before going to the ultimate, the final journey for the labor or for the birth. What is the preceding journey? That is the antenatal journey. Let us revise those steps again. Then what are the exercises? How to put in a birth plan? All these will be covered in depth. Now, I have been saying often, a birth plan. You must be wondering, what is a birth plan? And why is it so important that she is going on reminding us? Yes, for everything. You got married recently, right? So, for your marriage, wasn't there a plan? Wasn't there that this week we are going to do this? This is how it starts. It starts with the boy and the girl liking each other, then the engagement. So, all these milestones were important. Similarly, in the pregnancy, it is not that it just happens and the baby is delivered. No. Definitely, there has to be a plan how we are going to go about systematically. So, this birth plan is a written document that outlines your preferences during labor and delivery, so that the hospital is already told you. That's why I told you in the previous talk also, and I will tell you again, that you should visit the labor room before and decide what is that you want. You want a natural birthing, you want a water bath, birth, you want, what are the things that are offered and what is that you can pick. So if you don't know what you are going to get, I don't think it will be a very wise choice. So that is why we are going to talk about all that. But the purpose of a birth plan is, it will ensure that you and your partner and the providers are all on the same page. So at that time, nobody should say that, oh, you are acting, oh, you are doing this. Many times I have seen mothers getting offended for that. So that is why, if there is a birth plan in hand, It is written document that, okay, these are the preferences she wants, and this is what we are going to offer, and this is what we are going to do at this hospital. You are very clear. At the time of birth, you cannot go around places. Okay, I didn't like this hospital. I'm moving to another hospital. I don't like that hospital. I'm moving back to the previous hospital. So all this is going to affect your baby. So that is why it's better to have a written document beforehand. And the key components is it will include what are the type of the delivery that are available and what is the delivery, and are you counseled about each type of the delivery. Then what are the pain relief choices. Then if there is a C-section, it is done. We are prepared for a natural birth. Suddenly the doctor comes and says, no, you have to have a C-section. So do you really prefer that C-section? If you are not understanding why they are doing a C-section, again that can be very stormy post-op period. So that is why, to have everything comfortable and smooth, one should know all this beforehand. Then what is the skin to skin contact and what is the breastfeeding plan? Now many a times we see feeding bottles in the rooms. This happens because the mother was never prepared that it's not only she has come for labor, but also she is going to establish the key bond of feeding or nourishing her baby after the birth. So that has to be told beforehand so that mother is prepared, and then the baby gets the best what the baby deserves. So, the real impact is when the mother smiles at the end of the delivery, and both of them, the husband and the wife, they are so happy that they say that, doctor, we want to go for a next baby soon. So if that happens, means it's not so good for the country, the population boom, but definitely everybody chooses to have the family size they want. So they should be so happy that it should be a journey like your visit to a hill station. So it should be that beautiful. And the pain also, even when we walk up a mountain, definitely at the end of the day, we are going to get some leg cramps. But that does not mean I will not go on a mountain trek again. If I'm mentally prepared for it, and if I know that it's going to happen, and how am I going to beat that pain, then definitely you will take up this journey again. So, and it should be a memorable, happy journey for you. So, the birth plan, the most interesting and most intriguing aspect is, what are the delivery options? Is there an option? Or is it only one route? Yes, there are various options. So, one can have a natural birth, that is parvaginalis, so that it is the most common and it is safe. As per WHO, it should be to the tune of 80%. And only 20% are difficult deliveries, complex deliveries who require cesarean section or an abnormal delivery, I would call it, that is per via abdomen. So the abdomen is opened and the baby is taken out. Now here there is already a path made where you don't have to injure any body parts and the natural birth happens. In that again there can be little bit of assisting, which is known as assisted delivery. That is, if the mother is not able to use a complete force, then either instrument that is called as obstetric forceps, which is like it will have two blades, and those will be applied to either side of the head of the baby, and the baby is given an assistance to come out into this world. And or it can be a C-section. So C-section is when a natural birth fails, or when you do not want to conduct a natural birth, keeping in view the safety of the mother or the newborn, then you go for a C-section. That is, the abdomen is cut open, the uterus is cut open, the baby is delivered, and then everything is closed. And there's a new concept coming up, that is the water birth. So, water birth is when the birth happens underwater. So in a bathtub, normally they use a lot of bathtubs, and in the bathtub, the pain is very less. Water hydrotherapy will relieve pain. So will relieve pain, and that is why it's a very important new aspect, and it is not difficult also. If one is well versed as to how to deliver, the most interesting and intriguing aspect of a delivery is the delivery option. So, are there options or is there only one option? Yes, definitely there are options because not all the deliveries are natural. So, almost about 80% as per WHO should be normal because the complication rate is the 20% who will have either an assisted delivery or a C-section. So, natural birth is when no part is cut, no part is mutilated. There is already a path. So, at the onset of labor, the path starts expanding and forming, which is already formed is expanding. That is a vaginal delivery. And if at all it does not happen for reasons that are either the passenger is too big or the path is not right or the forces are less. So either of the things, then we plan for a C-section, that is an abdominal delivery. In between the two, via media is the assisted delivery. When the baby comes down to a certain level, wants to come out, but not able to, then we use some instruments. Either we use a vacuum or a forceps. So either of the instruments will only aid the delivery and smoothen the path straighten the path so that the baby comes out easily. And there's another aspect, the painless labor. It can be pharmacological with the epidural analgesia, in which a drug is injected into the epidural space and there is pain, the pain is relieved. But there is also a natural way of birthing without much pain, is the water birth. So this is a very good aspect which is coming out. It's a non-pharmacological aspect and is physiological. And birthing below water level is really not difficult because the baby is already living in water. So as you think that the baby can get choked, no. Before the baby takes the first breath, baby can be happy in the water. So there is no problem, and only thing, the providers should be trained in doing that. They do it in a water bath, and it's quite simple and it can be done. So a visit to the hospital and inquiring about these options, looking at all of them, you can come to an informed consent of what you want. But always be prepared that if the natural route does not work, then one may have to adopt, on the advice of the doctor, and a C-section. And the C-sections, the problem is people are thinking that you can program your labor, you can already have a muhurtam for delivery, and then you can go and have a C-section. But no, this is abnormal, this is unnatural. One is going to cut open the abdomen, the uterus, and everything will have its implications in later life also. Also, after the delivery, there will be quite a lot of pain, wherein in natural birth, there is pain before labor, but no pain afterwards. So that is why you have to weigh your benefits versus risks, and definitely we have to bring down the C-sections which are not natural births. Now that one has reached the hospital, what is that one will expect at the hospital? To expect, you must know. Your brain should know what you want. Then only you can expect, and then only they can satisfy you. So, the standard hospital protocols are being followed or not. But this is much before. So, is there a separate triage? And are you being received properly? Because you have the right. When you have planned a birth there has to be a means of transport waiting to be taken to take you inside. You are not going to walk and drag yourself inside. And then after reaching there, for everything, there are standard hospital protocols. So you can make out, is there a regular checkup that is being done? Not that you should be taken in and then it's forgotten. Then are consents being taken? Informed consents are very important. That is, every procedure that is going to be done on your body, whether it is invasive or non-invasive, even if a scan is being done, even if fetal heart is to be monitored, may not be a written document, but at least a verbal consent has to be taken from the mother. And even for changing the clothes or to undress the lady also, there should be a consent. Nothing can be done without a consent. Then at that time, what is there in your bag? Did you check? So before you go, pack your hospital bag by, as I said before also, you have to pack it after 8 months. Any time the labor can happen. And that is why your bag should be checked and kept ready. So all your documents, your antenatal journey, including all your milestones from your UPT positive, everything should be available in one file. And most important these days is the insurance document. Then, do you have enough toiletries? Then any night gowns, slippers. So all these have to be kept. Some of the hospitals do provide all this. So inquire beforehand. If they are going to provide, then don't waste your time in all this. Then the newborn clothes, diapers, maternity pads, and most important is your feeding clothes. That is, many a times I have seen the mother wants to feed, but she has no clothes that can open in the front. Everything is a t-shirt type and it doesn't, and she is not able to lift it up. So, to be comfortable, you need clothes that are fitting well and it should be opening in the front. And they should be preferably cotton clothing. Coming to understanding the pain relief options, the most important aspect of the labor is, why is it called a labor? It is a painful labor, but we can overcome this by our talking, by getting mentally prepared. When you are prepared, half the work is done. So get prepared, and then you should also be aware of what are the relief options. Okay, after doing everything, you are still not able to bear with the pain. Then you go for the options available, because you should also know that there are options available and nobody should suffer a pain that could have been relieved. Okay, there are some side effects, there are certain complications, and the doctors are trained to take care. So, the doctors and the midwives will take care of you, and you need not worry so much. So, only you have to be aware that, as I said previously, the non-pharmacological aspects are there, the water birthing, if it is available, that option you can take, or an epidural, which is an injection in the lower back. It will reduce pain, but what happens is it will also prolong the labor. So when it prolongs the labor, the pain will the labor is prolonged, so the pain is more prolonged, and the last few pains you're going to feel. And also we have seen that assisted delivery, that is using a forceps, using a vacuum, because the maternal effort is less. When the mother gets a pain, why should there be a pain? Because when there is a pain, then only the mother will take a deep breath and will give a push from the diaphragm, from the abdominal muscles down to the pelvis, so that the baby, the fetal ovoid, passes through the birth canal. So that effort is gone. So there may be prolongation of labor, but that does not matter till the labor is being monitored and the baby is doing well. Then there are certain sedatives which were given, pethidine, now ketamine and all, but then it depends upon the preferences of the doctor's team there. But this can lead to drowsiness. They will take care of the side effects. You have to take a choice. You have to be given you have to give an informed consent whenever you choose a pain relief option. And also many places they try to use an enema so that this will relieve any unnecessary pains that are happening due to gas, or it may be due to loaded rectum. So all these can be tackled with the enema there. So ask your hospital what are the options available in your 36th week. What happens is in the 9th month, at the 36th week, there is a birth planning session in which it is documented that all these options were offered and this is what you prefer. You may say, I will go for a natural birth. I do not need anything. Or you may say, I may go for a natural birth and I will take up water birthing if that option is available. If it is not available, then you can think of epidural or sedatives. You can discuss with the doctors there and you can arrive at a conclusion. Again, the role of the male partner is very important during labor. I have seen many of the mothers, they feel there is less pain when the husband is standing beside. What is this? This is because he is the emotional anchor. He is being present and getting involved. Itself, the partners are such that each one is dependent on the other. How much ever support is given by a third person, finally, the male partner only can give that emotional support to the mother. And I have seen in my practice that definitely they feel very safe and relieved of pain. So important is the communication that the doctor, the midwife gives you. That is, they have to give you all the options, they have to tell you the choices, and she has to be reassuring that this is the pain you will feel, not beyond this. Mostly mothers are not scared of the pain they are facing. This is happening, okay, I'm comfortable, I can bear with this. But I should be told that it is not going to be much more than this. If I say that maybe now you're going to get a few more contractions, they'll be just that painful. Only the last part, when the head is on the perineum, then there will be a little stretch of the perineal muscles. That time you may have a little bit of more pain. But at that time you can tell me, I can do something about it. So if you are assured, definitely the pain is going to come down. So this is known as the birth coaching. And also there are certain breathing techniques that are told at that time, which is just take a deep breath, hold and release. It's like a pranayam, and that will relieve the pain because there are certain chemicals that are released in the brain once a woman is breathing in such a way. So that is why the breathing techniques, and definitely if there is a nice music being played in the room, a soothing music, and the temperature is optimal, definitely labor becomes a beautiful experience than a frightening one. So the male partner's role is crucial in relieving the pain and enjoying the beauty of birth. For the exercises that I told in labor, these simulation exercises should start early. So as I said, many hospitals are offering the Lamaze program. That is, there are regular antenatal classes for exercises, and the woman does all these exercises at home, and sometimes she comes here and with their peers they perform. And so here there are many husbands who also support. Most important aspect of that is the breathing exercise. Now this is very important because oxygenation to the baby during labor is reduced. During the contraction, the blood vessels in the uterus, which are supplying so much of blood carrying this oxygen, is stopped for a while when the uterus is contracting. So when the uterus contracts, between the muscle fibers will be the blood vessels. So that will be stopped like this. And when this stopped, the oxygen is also stopped. So that is why be prepared again. So if one breathes deeply before the pain or during the pain, then you push in oxygen. So for this, the lungs have to expand well They'll not expand suddenly. So for this exercise has to happen throughout the pregnancy. So again, once again, the importance of a sample birth plan. So how you are going to do it in labor, what will be the method, how are you going to do, and what is the support that the husband is going to offer. So for that, even the mother-in-law or the family can involve. There can be family discussions, and that is not involving too many, but then the important people. There are certain families where the mother will also come inside. So who are all going to support the mother, and in what way are they going to support? All their roles should be played and those should be performed. So that even if they know that every moment one nurse cannot sit with them. So at that time, if the husband knows or the partner knows or the birth companion knows that no, you have to breathe because the woman is in pain. So the mother will be shouting, and when she's shouting, she's not breathing. Actually, shout also comes because during shouting, again the oxygen goes in. So that is why, to calm her down and have less pain and have good oxygenation for the baby has to be safe. All this labor of 9 months and these 9 hours is gone if the baby is injured, that is morbid due to oxygen deprivation. So which should not never happen during the labor. For a great delivery, the antecedent path, the preceding path of antenatal care is crucial. Without a proper, regular antenatal care, how can suddenly the baby develop into a 3 kg, smart, beautiful, healthy child? Because to get that effect, one has to undergo this cycle of early identification, early detection, showing to the doctor early, systematic checkups, which is checkup for the growth of the mother as well as for the baby. Both the growths have to be checked. So there have to be, the WHO says, at least 8 antenatal visits should be done. If not, every monthly once, then fortnightly from 26 to 32 weeks, and 32 weeks and beyond every week. At least 8 should be done. One in the first as early as possible. Second, at the 14 or 16 weeks for ATFA. That is when you do a non-invasive scan and look at the baby if there are any anomalies. And then at 20 weeks, and then 32 weeks. Then later at 36 weeks. So these are all the mandatory checkups which have to be there for a mother to have a healthy pregnancy and a beautiful baby. So what are the key components of antenatal care? What are the things that will be done during the antenatal care? Not only a general monitoring, it is a baseline is seen. What is her BP when she conceived? That shows her non-pregnant BP. What is the blood sugar? How much is the weight? Weight is very important parameter. High or low, both are not good. Because if it is low weight, then that will lead to low birth weight babies. But if it is more obesity, that can have its own implications, like diabetes is more common, hypertension is more common, and several other complications are there. So the weight is very important. So that will be recorded. And the basic biochemical parameters of the blood are very important to reflect each and every organ. So these are the screening tests. The blood sugar, then look for CBP, look for anemia, most common. In India, most of the women are anemic. The anemia is coming down. That is why the mortality is decreasing, both in the mother and the newborn. Then look for any infections will be looked, like, is there anything? Is there any infection? Because silent UTIs have led to major maternal and fetal complication. UTI is urinary tract infection. So these may be very subtle, but they can be picked up by these tests. By a simple urine examination, the test will be picked up and the results are there for us to support the mother. Then a very important thing is how to nourish this pregnancy. So nourishment is through 2 things. One is the pure nutrition, that is the food being provided, that is how much salad is she taking, how much fruits is she taking, what is the balanced diet, how much to eat, when all to eat, what not to eat. So all these are very important things which will be discussed during the antenatal care. And so above all is the counseling. For every aspect there will be counseling, and this establishes a bond between the provider and the uh, parents to be. So that there is better communication, and better communication will lead to better outcomes. As we spoke about the visiting schedules, so up to 12 weeks there should be the first visit. I would say as soon as the UPT is positive, the first visit for confirmation that the pregnancy is there, it is inside the uterus and is normal, and the baseline tests are very much normal. So this is a very reassuring fact for you and for the provider. Then the second visit between 13 to 28 weeks. Now this, I would say, let us cut it down to 20 weeks, because that is when all the congenital anomalies can be picked up. So we prefer from 13 to 14 to 16 weeks, we do a TIFA. If you come a little bit late, up to 20 weeks is allowable, because beyond that it is difficult to abort a big baby. So if there are major congenital anomalies, they can be picked up and they can be discussed with the mother. If they are viable, they are not viable, whether they should continue the pregnancy, whether they should not. Once we had a patient who had come to us suddenly at 32 weeks from a remote place, and this baby had a tumor in the spine, and both the limbs were paralyzed, so the lower limbs. And then at 32 weeks, what can we do? Can I abort? Now what is that? This baby already has a problem, and if we help her abort, then this baby, it was such a complex dilemma for all of us, for them and for us. Then finally, we allowed her to wait till the fetal maturity. So beyond 36 weeks, she delivered, and when this baby was born, the parents were not ready to take care. So in the nursery, we had this baby living with us for 8 months. Then the parents, even the parents and the family left. Then another case was where the parents, after they took the baby home, could not support, and they parted. So, to avoid all this, it is better to just get this testing done, which is a non-invasive test. So just a scanning will be done, and the major congenital anomalies, the lethal congenital anomalies can be picked up, discussed, and you can be better prepared. If at all there is a problem also, the parents are better prepared to face it. Then the third visit is beyond 29 weeks, and the final visit is at 36 weeks, when we decide whether the path is correct, whether there is room for birthing to happen, whether when there is no fetopelvic disproportion, that is any disproportion between the head which is coming down, or if it is the breech which is coming out. So any disproportion between the mother and the baby. So then you have to think of a C-section. So the modalities of delivery will be discussed. Then the pain relief can be discussed. And so it is very comfortable if this last visit happens on the right time. And finally, whatever is missing during the journey of antenatal care during pregnancy and the labor, in most of the places is counseling. Neither are the doctors having time to counsel, nor are the patients in a mood, mothers I would call, not patients, in a mood to get counsel. But better if counseling is being done. Even if it is done by a paramedic there, that is a midwife, please have faith. They are trained by the hospital, and they can do sometimes a better job than the doctors who are more into technical um, counseling than the general counseling. That is the partner and the family support, the nutrition and supplements. Then important aspect is hygiene and safe sex. Then most important is recognizing danger signs, because if you don't recognize the danger signs, then how are you going to come? Then the birth location, transport, all these are very important in remote areas than urban areas. In remote areas, they do not have access to health system, and the contacts between the provider and this was less. Now the ministry has identified, and there are home visits to do this counseling. So all these aspects are enlisted in a book, and the book is flipped by um, the counselor, and the counselor's innate intelligence does not matter to us. There is written document, and that is discussed, especially about the transport, because many places there is no transport, or the ambulances, how should they be contacted? Many people do not know that pregnant woman, when she is in problem, she can ask for a 108. Many people think in the villages, even in the urban areas, many people think that it is for only for diseases like if somebody is having a heart attack or somebody has collapsed. No, it is for every pregnant woman who feels she has a danger, even to be taken to a hospital for a checkup, can request for an ambulance. So these should be known to every person. Then the postnatal care and breastfeeding, the most important aspect, which is missing, is also counseled in the antenatal period. From antenatal period, the birth, the breast care, the support, everything is talked about. And if we do not, if you are not informed that breastfeeding is the best way to bring up your baby, you are not going to breastfeed. At that time, you will have some after pains, and in that after pains, one may not breastfeed, which is the first milk, that is the colostrum, which may be few drops. Some people I have seen, the grandmothers encouraging the girls to just eject that colostrum, saying that that is yellow in color, so we should not be using it. No, it is not. It is the best antibiotic. It is the best immunoglobulins and the best protein that comes. Whatever a newborn requires is there. Nature is very great. It provides the nourishment, whatever is required, how much ever is required, in that proportions during the antenatal period and after birth through the breastfeeding. So first 6 months, the baby has to be exclusively breastfed. And last but not the least, the government entitlement should be known. If you are going to certain hospitals, the CGHS hospitals, the state hospitals, then there are certain entitlements which vary from geographic location to location, which like JSY, JSSK, the Janni Suraksha Karyakram, all these can be found out from the hospital in your birth plan itself, and you can avail those if they are available. Now we'll talk about the most neglected aspect of the journey of pregnancy, that is travel during pregnancy. Many people just travel without telling their doctors, go on travels without even knowledge of when they should stay home and when they should go. But it is important that one should be made aware when all one should travel. The safest period is the second trimester. First trimester, what happens? The pregnancy is still forming. The placenta is still forming. It is not totally attached. It is trying to attach. At that time, if there is a huge friction, it can detach. There will be bleeding. There will be abortion. Or there may be certain other complications also. So, after 14 weeks, yes, it is quite a well-established pregnancy. And up to 28 weeks, because beyond that again, the labor is going to begin. So the changes which are facilitating a labor is what? Opening up of all the spaces for the baby to travel, that is the highway is being opened after being closed for so long. And so when that preparations are happening, this sudden journey, an uncomfortable journey, can give an indication, trigger that, okay, come out. So the best time to travel is 14 to 28 weeks. So, and also it's very important that morning sickness should have settled. So that is why we say 14 weeks. Then how should one travel? If you're traveling, we cannot say that, okay, go by air only. Everywhere the plane is not going. Everywhere the train is not going. So best way to travel is either you go by car, where you take breaks every 90 minutes to walk or stretch. So just every 2 hours, 1.5 to 2 hours, stop the journey. Anyways, there'll be some hotel or something. So just walk up to that, have a hot cup of tea or coffee, or have a break, have some snack, and come back. Then, while sitting in the car, keep a small pillow for back support and try to stretch your legs as much as possible. See that blood does not clot in the legs. Then by air again, most airlines allow flying only up to 36 weeks, because beyond that, delivery can happen, as I said, and many airlines do not allow even after 28 to 30 weeks. So, it is better also. It is most comfortable. It is the best to travel between 14 to 28 weeks. And then again, it's common sense. You have to choose the aisle seat because you have to have the bathroom access. Because during pregnancy, as the head travels down, there will be lot of irritation to the bladder. And so, with the movement and this tumultuous movements of air and all, there will be movement, and that is going to cause more of irritation to the bladder. And so, pregnant lady should be sitting on the aisle side. And then one can go by train also. And in the train, you take a berth so that you don't sit and you lie down. And when you are lying down, that is the best position. You have to lie down in the left lateral position once again. And you have to make short journeys. So you can break your journey in between if you are going on a very long journey. And talk to your doctor first, so that if anything has to be prescribed, then that can be given, the tablet can be given. And for emergency, they will provide you with medicines. So it is better to have a talk with the hospital so that you are counseled and you know what is going to happen. And the more of counseling and more of clarification of doubts, you will be more comfortable. And caution here is avoid very long journeys. Try to take up short journeys. And very important fact is stay hydrated and snack light. As I said, whenever you break the journey, you take some water, take some hydration, or you take a small snack. But do not have a heavy meal, sit down, no water, sitting in one position, tied to one place. This is going to lead to further complications. And yes, seat belt has to be used. There is no excuse, because in case there is a sudden jolt, which we cannot expect, however best your driver is, sometimes accidents do happen. And in that case, we have seen least injuries whenever the seat belt was on, rather than no seat belt. So please use the seat belt. You can make adjustments. You can add attachments like you have attachments in the flight for the fat people. So same attachments can be used, and you can already prepare for it. Now, this is about when to make a journey, how to make a journey, what are the tips. Now, there are conditions when you should avoid the travel. So, when should you avoid the travel? So, when you are having early signs of labor, you are getting pains every half an hour and you want to travel. Okay, I booked my ticket 2 months ago and I will waste this money. No, it is going to cause a lot of problems and embarrassment when you travel like that. So once I was flying back from Singapore and there was a lady who had labor pains, and luckily they asked for a gynec on board and I was there to support her. But even I had palpitations that if the delivery happens, how are we going to do? There is no delivery kit, there is no labor room. It will be all messy. It will be on an unsterile ground. So please do not. She was also at 32 weeks, and she tricked her uh, these agents that she's 28 weeks. So do not do such things. Be very clear with yourself. You have to think of your safety, not about whether they are going to allow you to travel, whether you should stay back for another 2 weeks. No, there is no need. Beyond 28 weeks, it's better not to travel. And you are in the last 4 weeks of pregnancy, you should not travel. You are carrying multiples, that is, you have twins or triplets, then I would say traveling itself is unsafe. Take a risk and travel early as possible. So, again, here the safe sentence would be avoid the first trimester and the third trimester, travel between 14 to 28 weeks. If you have any pain, any bleeding, any fever, any problem, do not travel because you cannot risk your life for anything. Once life is gone, doesn't come back. So don't risk your life or baby's life. As I said, the last word is your rights and entitlements. So there are the uh, public sector hospitals which have the Janani Suraksha Yojana. It's a financial support for institutional deliveries in which a certain amount is dedicated to be given to the mother to take care of her when she is not able to go to work and when she is at home and when she has to take care of the needs of two persons, that is herself and her child. Then there is also Janani Shishu Suraksha Karyakram, that is the free services like drugs, diagnostics, diet, and free transport back to the home. So these entitlements, if you know your rights, you can always ask that do you have GSY or GSSK? Then you can ask the provider for that and you can use those schemes for yourself. Yes, the celestial event has happened. The how life came on earth. That is, a bundle of flesh became a bundle of joy. But the journey is not done. We had a good outcome. We have a happy mother and a happy baby suckling at the breast, I would say. That is a happy look for me. But the journey begins now for the baby. These first 1,000 days, they call, are the golden days of the baby. When physically the baby is going to develop, the emotional bonding is going to lead to a very good brain development. And so don't be careless about these 1,000 days. This is an investment into the future of your baby. So first 40 days are vital for both the mother and the baby to recover, because baby also underwent labor. It is not the mother only who underwent labor. Baby also would have negotiated through a narrow passage. She would have negotiated, had so many movements and circus to come out. So the baby was also under emotional stress. Now everything has to settle down, which will take a minimum of 42 days. Then what is the support system you have? This also shall be planned early in the pregnancy itself, that what is your plan? Where are you going to stay afterwards? What are going to be who is going to provide you nutrition? In what way? Who is going to do the baby care? And finally, is your husband there for the emotional support or not? Many a times in Indian families, husbands think that, okay, at least pregnancy I came for the checkups. Now I'm not required. The happy baby has come out and the baby is healthy. I'm not required. No, it's not that. The mother still has postpartum blues. So some women carry this emotion of labor, that is a depressing feeling that they get because they are so overwhelmed, so anxious that how will my baby be when the fetal heart is ticking in the labor room, you get that sound, tuck, 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 tuck. Suddenly it drops. And then all the paramedics and the doctor looks at the monitor And so all that anxiety is also communicated, if not verbally, by body language to the mother, and the mother is so anxious. So she has to calm down. So the emotional support is crucial here for a mother to be happy, and the happy hormones, oxytocin and all will be released, the dopamine, and that is when the mother will be happy. Otherwise, this is the very crucial time when a mother goes into a postpartum blue or a depression. I have seen so many women who have tried to um undertake suicides. That is, they try to end their lives because for no big reason, only for simple things, because they are under a depressed state because of the hormonal imbalance and all the trauma that has happened. So the what will be your focus area is rest and rest and rest. To recover, one should rest. Then good food that will make you happy. And then breastfeeding. When the baby feeds, it's a very happy and a lovely feeling. And lot of oxytocin pours into the system. And as you know, oxytocin is a happy hormone. And whenever the mother is breastfeeding, she will never be depressed. So the mental well-being is always there. So all these are interconnected. And that's why if you start one, everything ends well. As always, now we will sum up that. What are the final takeaways or the take home message? One is empowerment through planning. So now you have understood the concept. What is birth planning, how it should be done, and why it should be done. It really will empower you and prepare for the unexpected. Mostly one is trying to learn through social media, which is an incomplete information. And so take a complete information, meet your doctor, meet your paramedic, and clarify all your doubts, and know your rights, your entitlements. And key to all this is the communication. So be communicative, do not be shy, do not hesitate, do not think anything is silly. Pregnancy is a very important event of life, and all the cardiovascular changes, the hepatic changes, and all the systems changes will overwhelm a pregnant lady, and definitely she will have a lot of doubts. And here at Terra, we welcome all your doubts and all your concerns. We are here to answer you. You are not alone, and we are in your journey. Make this journey unique by experiencing this unique customized care, and we will answer all your questions. You can email us and we'll reply ASAP. So you can ask your doctor, like, what is the biggest worry that you have about labor? Think, what is that you are not expecting? Or maybe you do not know. So many people come out with, doctor, how much pain are we going to have? So I would say something little more than your menstrual cramps. And that much pain every human being till they come to that age will have had at some time. So do not think it is the impossible pain and I can never, oh my God, I can do it and I will go for a C-section. No, that is not the way. Because after C-section, you're going to have profound pain. See, if you cut a finger while working in the kitchen or anything, that pain itself will last for 1 week, right? So if an organ is cut, the abdomen is cut, the skin is cut and repaired, don't you think it's going to pain? But then, don't run away from a C-section. There'll be ways to relieve this pain. But why do it unnecessarily when you can deliver naturally? Then you can always utilize this time to ask the doctor that, do you think my partner is important in all this? And family is important? For which all sessions should they come? The family should come. Because when I talk about nutrition, I always talk to the family, because more than the partner, the family has to take care of the nutrition. If they are not informed in Indian families, now I think the trends are changing, but previously the woman is to, the daughter-in-law of the house is to eat last. No. They have to be told that once she is pregnant, her food she has to consume at the right time, the right way, the right amount, the right thing. Everything right will make a right baby. If you need a grandchild who's right, then give the nutrition right. So family has to be counseled, and a doctor or a paramedic saying that definitely has a weightage. So the partner is also important. If the mother does not come, the partner can come and they can all go and counsel the family. But the patient cannot be, the mother cannot be expected to be going and counseling. As we now conclude our workshop on birth planning and preparations, I want to thank each one of you for engaging so thoughtfully with this significant journey of transition and creating a birth plan, which is not only about preferences during labor, it's about claiming agency and in a healthcare experience that has historically minimized women's voices and choices. Your birth experience will be uniquely yours. So do not expect a generalized plan by God. While no birth plan unfolds exactly according to the plan, the process of preparing, learning, and articulating your preferences will help ensure that your voice remains centered. It should be centered around you, not around the information available, even as circumstances evolve. So look for any change. If there is a change in the plan, welcome it. Do not feel anxious or overwhelmed. And finally, for all your anxiety and your doubts, we want to bring it down. So our team here is waiting and is available for any additional questions or resources you might need as you prepared for this final transformative experience and a happy journey.